And welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. It's your host, Rob, aka B-Ball Archives. Once again, I'm joined by the Bums, AJ, Adam. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Yeah, buddy, it feels good to be here. We are coming, just minutes after Game 3 in the Dallas-Minnesota series. Why is Rob laughing?
AJ just sneaking in jokes already.
Okay, we got to start over. I didn't hear what he said. I was just looking at Rob and him fucking laughing.
Well, honestly, we're here after some playoff basketball. All of the games in this Mavericks Timberwolves series have been really exciting. There's been a lot of really elite fourth quarter play, and this game was no exception. So, Adam, how are you feeling about the game tonight?
Honestly, feeling a little bit depressed as a Spurs fan, seeing the Mavericks up 3-0 on the cusp of making it to the NBA Finals. From what's been like a pretty exciting playoff series so far, I just feel like, we're 3-0 in both series in each conference finals. And I have to tip my hat to the Mavs ultimately. It seems like whenever I watch them play, it's like everyone knows their role on their team. They've got two guys that can get shots when they need it. And whenever they can't get their shot, they can get it off to somebody who can. If you looked at the first couple of games, Derek Jones Jr. struggled. I think he was shooting 0% from three. PJ Washington was shooting 16 or 17%. And then right out the gate, they both hit a three early in the first quarter. Derek Jones Jr. goes 3 for 3 from three in the first half. And it's just okay. And then about halfway through the third quarter, Ant has that poster. And I'm like, oh shit, could this be like a momentum shifter? And he goes off to rattle off 6 straight points. They go on an 8-0 run. And then Dallas did what they've done all series long, and they win close games. They pull away in the fourth, and they just continually get better shots than the T-Wolves are able to late. That's what
I mean, it's so clear that they have the closers, that they have two guys that give you two completely dynamic, unique closing opportunities. When you're talking about a guy like Luka who can slow the game down, put his body into you, get to the basket, or just Kyrie who you can't guard, who can get a three, and who can really, really just be shifty and who you cannot stay in front of. And there's just so many dynamic options when you look at those two guys that I think that these are the two best closing options in the finals right now, and they're both on the same team, which is crazy.
Yeah, there was two, and I want to get your thoughts, AJ. There was two kind of daggers at the very end of the game. One was Kyrie's fadeaway over Cat in the corner, the deep two, and then the second was a two-part play by Daniel Gafford, that big block that he had, and then he came right back on the other end and had that alley-oop, and it's just that's been a testament to how they've played. All of the role players know their role. They've all stepped up. Did you notice anything in particular, AJ, tonight? Anything stood out?
Yeah, Rudy Gobert shouldn't be Defensive Player of the Year. That's a fact. Dude, I honestly do not understand how you can have two 7-footers on the floor. They're both on the floor, and you're getting wide open layups and dunks in the paint. That just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how you're defensively schemed that happens. And then Rudy Gobert, I mean, no one's scared of him down low. They take it straight to his chest, and there's nothing he can do about it. And then, Cat had a decent game, I guess. I mean, 14 points, nothing crazy, but every time he steps on the court, he pisses me off. So, I just really feel that the T-Wolves, I think, are overwhelmed, and I think they're trying to find something, and it's really hard because they were at so much swagger in that last series, and they come in, and they're saying, I'm tired. So it's dude, do something. I'm looking at the stats right now, and Anthony Edwards – he shot the ball 24 times. He was 11 for 24, which is great, 26 points, whatever. But he really didn't do anything in 3 quarters. The only quarter that he really showed up was the third. Where was he in the fourth quarter? He had 4 points.
Well, coming into tonight, Cat was shooting, I think, 28% from the field. Anthony Edwards was shooting 33%. And to your point about Rudy Gobert being Defensive Player of the Year, it's they're the Mavs are doing everything they possibly can to get them, any of their players to switch on, get Gobert to switch on to them. There were multiple times they even had Hardy, like Luka passing up, having the ball late in the possessions just to get Hardy in isolation situations against Rudy Gobert. And I couldn't agree more. Like, I don't understand how outside of the very last 3 minutes of the game, they take Gobert out. They look to be better defensively. They put him back on, and then that's when Dallas goes on that run again. It's like, I'm curious what you think about that, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty frustrating. Like you mentioned, Hardy getting switched off onto him and really kind of abusing him in an isolation situation. I saw Derrick Jones Jr. do that a couple of times as well. And it just really seems like no matter who Gobert gets switched on, it's a problem from Gobert. And it's not like you brought him to Minnesota to play perimeter defense on guards. That's not why he's there. But at the same time, can you say that he is a truly generational defender, a four-time DPOY guy, if he's consistently getting cooked by mediocre offensive guys? And it's, you got to scratch your head a little bit.
At what point do you blame that on the coaching scheme, though? Like, you feel like we're in game 3 now. They've been trying to do this the entire series. They've got to do something else. They've been dropping their bigs in coverage, right? So there's sometimes that they'll have, Jaden McDaniels, whoever, fight through the screen to get back on Luka or Kyrie or whoever it is. And they have Gobert kind of dropping in coverage, or they've been just straight up switching. And neither of them honestly seem to work. Whenever they drop, Luka's getting into the paint and like getting 15-foot and closer shots consistently. But like, they've got to do something different, right?
Well, you can only do drop coverage. That's the only thing that really makes sense. Is you have to really just trust your perimeter defender to guard Luka, which has primarily been Jaden McDaniels. So it's not really a horrible option. But at the same time, Jaden McDaniels has been getting into foul trouble a lot. Karl Anthony Towns, he was an absolute ghost of a defender tonight, and when he's not showing up on offense, his defensive woes look even worse. And there's just so much that Minnesota was missing, and I thought that a lot of that was going to turn around when Derek Lively went out of the game. He got that knee to the back of the head by Karl Anthony Towns, and then as soon as that happened, I was like, oh wow, they're going to use this opportunity to really play some bully ball down low. I'm going to see Naz Reid start to go off. I'm going to see Karl Anthony Towns start to have a really good game. And I didn't really see any of that. And I didn't think that they took advantage of something that I thought was really big, because Luka throwing the ball up to Derek Lively and Gafford is the cornerstone of that offense. As much as Luka getting threes and Kyrie getting threes looks really nice and fancy, those little lob passes are what runs that offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's really putting like people like Cat and their centers in a blender whenever the guards, Luka and Kyrie, are beating their man off the dribble, and the bigs have to decide, do I step up and contest and help, or do I stay back on my big?
Your two 7-footers have 0 blocks that game. Like, game 3, they had 0 blocks. Like, you're defensive player of the year, and you don't have any kind of contribution to defense. Rudy Gobert had 0 steals, 0 blocks,
Right.
6 rebounds.
He's not stocking at all.
I'm just flabbergasted by what, like, just the way that the Mavs just are tearing them apart, and it really it frustrates me, because they should be this series should not be 3-0. There's no way this series should be 3-0. And you look at the box scores tonight, the starters for the Timberwolves are all in minuses. All the starters for the Mavs are in plus.
What a different contrast to the Timberwolves' previous series, too, where whenever they played the Nuggets, almost every game was a blowout, right? The last game obviously had a massive swing, but all the games are blowouts, and they traded winning games, and now you've got close games in all of them. I think, in game 1, the Mavericks won by, was it 1 or 3? I know they won by a combined 4 points the first 2 games. The T-Wolves had a chance to win tonight, and it's like, I think it goes back to what I said earlier, and what you said with how good Kyrie and Luka are at closing games. they're they're deciding these games in the final few minutes. The Mavs consistently get better shots. They're consistently getting lobs, alley oops, like you said, and I think that's how the whole series has been. I think as well as Anthony Edwards played kind of in the beginning of that second half tonight, he really disappeared late. He had one like after they stole the ball off an defensive rebound. Dallas got a defensive rebound. They stole the ball, and then he just like let himself get tied up. I don't know if you remember that play. He just
Yeah.
sat there and like held the ball down low, and
And
they
it was
tied him
Luca.
up.
It was
Yeah, and
Luca that
it was
yeah.
Luca. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't know. I think he just kind of froze, and it could go back to inexperience. He's still young, right?
Yeah.
But I was like so psyched, as was everybody, with Ant, and he's really underperformed this series. Cat has almost been a bigger disappointment. Like he kind of got the monkey off his back, right? He's always gotten hate in the playoffs, kind of mentally weak, and he had such a big series against Denver, and he comes out here and I think he's got to be shooting under 30% for the series. And this is a guy that they need. I think he shot 0 for 7 from 3 tonight.
He did.
And
0 for 8. Yeah.
0 for 8, thank you.
Oh.
Naz Reid, after going lights out game 1, I think he ended up going, what was it? Correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, 1 for 5 from 3, 1 for 6.
1 for 5.
Yeah. So it's like they didn't really have anyone else step up. Mike Conley hit some timely shots. I think he's been pretty consistently good for them, but they really haven't had a lot of consistency. Jaden McDaniels played pretty well offensively too, but it's their lack of depth, their lack of scoring off the bench outside of Naz Reid's catching up with them, especially if Cat's not going to play well on offense.
Yeah, overall, it was kind of a weird game, too. The flow was a little choppy. It felt like there was a lot of stoppages with Lively, getting hurt. Also with some of the referee calls. Seemed like Tony Brothers wanted to get his name in the papers the next day. So it was a little weird on some of the flow of the game. And then looking at the box scores, I mean, the Timberwolves only got to the line 17 times. Like that number should be a lot higher. And in the first half, I felt they were just shooting up shots, and their offense looked very stagnant, and it was just one-on-one. And if they shot, it just didn't. They were within 4 or 5 points, but it felt like it was a double-digit lead the entire game until the third quarter, obviously. But that first half just was really weird. If you guys saw that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I felt like the pace was very, very was very, very high and low in a sense that you felt Dallas slow the game down disproportionately to games 1 and 2, and it felt like Minnesota wanted to play at a higher pace. So it almost felt like the game was kind of turned on its head at the beginning, and I thought that Minnesota was going to kind of continue that play, but it at the end of the day, I feel like I'm a little disappointed in Anthony Edwards. I felt like whenever you see his comments in the press conference before the game, and he's talking about how many shots he's going to take, and he's talking about how aggressive he's going to be, and you're seeing late in the fourth quarter, he just really took it up really weak. Like there was a couple of times he went to the basket and I was not impressed with his energy, with how he went to the rim. And it's like, dude, if you want to put yourself in the conversations of people that are MVP kind of guys, you got to perform in these moments. And I know he's young, but this is going to be a learning moment from him. He's going to be like, damn, Luka and Kyrie got the best of me.
Also, I don't want to let Ant off the hook for his passing up the shot in the last game. I just want to say that he should have taken that shot because I get Naz Reid was open, but if we're going to crucify all these superstars in the past for not taking that last second shot, then we should probably throw Ant in there too because you want him to shoot the ball.
Well, honestly, last game, I'm okay with Naz Reid taking that shot because he had missed 1 3 up until that point all game. I think he was 7 for 8. And so if I'm Anthony Edwards, I'm keeping that in the back of my head, and I'm like, this guy he's on fire. I may second guess my own shot, and then if he's open, bam, finding him.
She just needed 1 point. It wasn't like you needed the 3. So I think I think if you're Anthony Edwards and you're the superstar that you say that you are and how you performed in this playoffs, you take that shot. That's just me.
It's kind of similar how think about all the hate LeBron used to get for
That's
kind of
what I'm saying.
for making the right pass. But I kind of always thought that hate was bullshit. Like if you're a basketball player and you make the right pass and you get a good basketball player open to take a shot, like you kind of live with it. I'd rather get an open shot than a forced shot from a better player. Yeah, we obviously didn't get to.
Some people have big wieners. It's all right.
Well,
Do you think this kind of puts? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think this kind of like at least puts to bed all of the comparisons to like early Kobe, early MJ as they were kind of working up towards their first championship with Ant, or is there still time for this, saying that he's only 22?
Well, I don't think anyone was like looking at what Anthony Edwards could achieve and they were like, oh, MJ. They just saw plays like we saw tonight where he flew through the lane and dunked on Gafford and they said, oh, that's MJ in the mid 80s. That's what he looked like. And so I understand what they mean when they say that, but whenever I look at what Anthony Edwards can achieve with his team, he's not on a Michael Jordan level. He's not on par to achieve those kind of accolades. But from an athleticism standpoint, sure. I see what people mean.
Well, it was never fair to like put him and Michael Jordan in the same breath, right? And he even said that. It's not fair to like make those type of comparisons to him. But it's funny, he does
until the blood work comes back, and then we can.
No, I thought Jimmy Butler. So Michael Jordan just has a bunch of illegitimate children. Jimmy,
just balling in the NBA.
We're probably going to see a new guy here in the next. Like Cooper Flagg might start getting some comparisons. Like, is he an illegitimate son too?
I need to see a DNA test.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's really disappointing to have two 3-0 series. I don't think anyone predicted like the Mavs to be at this point and be 3-0 on, let alone be in the Western Conference Finals and then be up 3-0 on a team that just dethroned Denver. It kind of puts me at a loss for words. We didn't get an opportunity to do a podcast after Game 2. Was there anything that stood out to you guys? There was a couple really controversial plays, controversial calls in Game 2 of the Minnesota-Dallas series. So I would like to take a minute to talk about that as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think if we're talking Game 2, we need to start off by talking Luka's game winner, and the screaming afterwards, and I think the funniest moment of that was Jaden McDaniels' face. As soon as Gobert got switched off onto him, you saw his face. It was like, oh damn! You saw his face like, God, like we're cooked. We just got flambéed. And
if there's any way to clip that into this so if people haven't seen it, it was but well before the shot, well before Lucas started making his move, right whenever they just got switched, he was like, we're fucked. Yeah. And it's crazy that his own teammates don't believe in him. But it's like, no one can guard Luka, let alone a 7-footer on an island. But it goes back, like, you've got to switch defensive coverage. Like, you can't be having that down the stretch. You've got a game plan for that as a coach and say, hey, fight through it and switch onto him.
But you know how you avoid that? You don't have Gobert in the game at all. You have 4 guys that can switch off onto Luka, and then you have one big down low, and that's it. That's literally all you have.
Was Kyle Anderson in the game at that point? I know Cat was not, right?
Cat was not.
Cat was certainly on the bench, and you would way rather have Cat guarding Luka in that situation. I don't know if Kyle Anderson was, but I don't know how you don't want Luka shooting a 3, right? You're up 2. You want him taking a contested 2-point shot in that situation. Like, let him get a floater, let him get anything inside the 3-point line. But you knew as soon as he switched off and he started making his move, you knew the step back was coming. And it's like, I don't think anyone didn't think that ball was going in when it was released. And I was just like, holy shit, like that's a goated moment. And then right after, you can't fucking guard me. He said something right before that too. I can't remember.
Oh,
and then in the press conference, he's like, I didn't say that. I was speaking Slovenian. I was like, that's cheeky MFer.
Yeah. Which is a straight up lie. You could see half the words he was saying, and it was definitely not Slovenian.
No, it was not. So that was obviously massive. I'm curious, AJ, Rob, what are y'all's thoughts on? So Jaden McDaniels gets hit on the arm right in front of the official. The ball goes out of bounds, and they review it and they say, hey, well, the ball went off Jaden McDaniels despite it being a clear foul. Is this just an NBA rule? Do you think the ref should have been like, no, I'm not letting the game go down like this? What do y'all think about that?
Well, the ref can't make that decision in the moment because the refs just have to enforce the rules. The rule would need to change and then the ref can enforce the rule. So I think you're talking more about a league rule change where that, or if we review a play, whether it's upstairs reviewing it or a coach's challenge, can something be overturned if we find a foul? If an arm gets pushed and it causes the ball to go out of bounds, can we overturn that and call a foul instead? And I agree. I think it was Stan Van Gundy that said it. He was like, I just want the truth. He's like, I just want the real call happening. And
he said, if we're going to review a play, then we need to get it right.
Yeah.
And it sucks because we all played basketball growing up, right? And we all watched the NBA. There were half of the time somebody would go over the back of another player. They wouldn't call the foul, but they would call it out on the guy who went over the back, even if he didn't touch the ball. That's just like a classic rule. Hey, we're not going to call a foul in this situation. We'll just give the other team the ball. And I feel like that's ingrained in a lot of officials' mind. He's probably watching and he's like, well, I'm not going to call a foul. I'm just going to give them the ball. But then they review it. Hands are tied, like you said, because of league rules. And I think that's got to be something that they look at in the offseason. If you're going to review a play, you should be able to institute a foul after the fact, right? Like those calls mean too much. That means too much. That one call, there was one other call that I want to get to here in a second. That one call could have changed the entire game. We could be looking at a 2-1 series. And it sucks that it comes down to that. And it's rough because it was right in front of the official. He was literally standing 3 feet from the play, and I don't know how you missed that. And it sucks for the T-Wolves that it went down like that.
Yeah.
There was another call. There was another call that I want your opinion on, AJ. There was a long pass from Luka in transition, and Daniel Gafford, I don't know if you remember this play, Gafford extends both hands. And it was like a blatant offensive pass interference, and I thought that was another big call that was missed in the game too.
Well, first of all, he was offsides, so so they didn't call that. But I mean, I think that's it's tough because you just want good officiating, and you heard it tonight, and you're going to hear it for the rest of the playoffs. It's the conference championships; they should let things go, or it's going to be the finals. We let things go, and I'm torn about it because I am a dirty ref, and I definitely fixed a game in my career. Rob can attest to it. So my thoughts around that is the Gafford one. I think that one's like you just kind of let him play. If you want to review it, you can, but also you need to expand the replay rules. You just got to, if you get 2 right, like LeBron tweeted, you get 2 right, cool, you get another one. But you also need to be able to maybe expand more, but also you don't want to slow the game down at the same time. So we got to find that balance of what can we review, what can't we review, how much time are we're gonna have? Because I mean, we've watched NFL games back in the early 2000s where they would sit there for 10 minutes. So we need to have something that's going to be a little more streamlined. At the end of the day, the play that we were just talking about with Luka, the T-Wolves were up 2. So regardless of what happens up until that point, they had a chance to win the game, and Rudy Gobert is not Defensive Player of the Year. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think whenever we're talking about the foul situation, I think it's definitely something the league is going to talk about. They are going to have a conversation about this in the offseason, and whether or not we see immediate change. Maybe it'll take a couple of more big-time situations for people to get upset about it, but I think, it's definitely going to be conversation worthy. That's a good point.
If something big in the finals happens, they will take that immediately as soon as the season's over.
You could maybe compare it in a way how in the NFL they started being able to review like pass interferences after the big blown call on the Saints few playoffs back, and then they kind of went away from that, and they're like, we don't really like how this is working out. But I don't know. I think it's somewhat a little bit more cut and dry in the NBA. Not always, but
and some of the challenges are a little like you almost give the coaches another timeout too. And I feel some of the challenges tonight that were going on were stupid. I mean, just absolutely why are you why are you challenging this? This doesn't make sense to me. Like the one where Lively got hit in the nuts. Like, okay, challenge that one. That one makes sense. But there was one a few minutes later that I was kind of going, what are we doing here? You're just taking a timeout and just calling it a challenge, which I think the league should definitely look into that just to clean up the game a little bit. I don't want to sit there or go to commercial and see the same 3 commercials we've been seeing for the entire playoffs.
I think it would be interesting. You could have unlimited challenges, but you have to use a timeout each time. Unlimited to the amount of timeouts that you're given in a half, at least, not completely unlimited. Like you could, kind of self-explanatory, right? You have 6 timeouts. You have up to 6 challenges, but you're going to burn your timeouts later, right? So I don't know.
That's
I think
interesting.
that's interesting. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Some food for thought, right? Anything else that kind of stands out about this series? Anything that y'all have kind of
I mean,
y'all's brain?
Jason Kidd's been fantastic, man. He
That's
has
a good
that team. He has that team. He has that team clicking on all cylinders. He knows where the weaknesses of the Timberwolves, and that's one thing that you see a lot of, especially in the NBA. In these series, the adjustments. I don't know what the T-Wolves have done, and I don't know if it's because the coach is hurt with a knee injury, or if it's is Jason Kidd just one step ahead of whatever the T-Wolves are doing.
Yeah, I think that we talk a lot about their offense, right? But not as much as gone into us discussing their defense and how well they've played there.
They were playing zone for a little bit.
After the Kyrie trade last year, they were one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. Even before they made the 2 trades kind of at the deadline this year, they weren't a very good defensive team. And you've really seen them start to gel. I think PJ Washington's such a versatile defender. He can be versatile in pick and roll. He can guard a little bit smaller guys like Ant in certain situations. And I think one thing is they've tried so much to turn Anthony Edwards, Cat into full-out three-point shooters and really clog the paint, and they've made it really difficult. And I think that's one thing Ant needs to do to really take his game to the next level. I almost compare him a little bit to like Jason Tatum in that respect. Tatum shot terribly from 3 for the last couple playoffs if you look at his percentages. And I think that's one thing Ant got better at during the regular season, and he's done well throughout the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. But that's something that he's struggled with. His mid-range has been decent, specifically tonight, but I think he's struggled from 3, and I don't think his confidence is there. And then they've got 2 7-footers that are consistently shooting threes, and that's like all they're getting. And I think early tonight you saw a conscious effort to like Cat trying to go to the basket some, but late he took a bad 3. Nas was chucking up some shots to try and get going, and when you're that big of a team, I feel like you need to dominate down low, and I think just Dallas has more effort. They seem to want it more, right? Like they're a little bit smaller team, but they're getting more offensive rebounds, and that shouldn't be happening against such a big team like Minnesota.
Agreed.
no.
It always trips me out whenever I see a NBA team playing zone.
I mean, it sometimes it works if you have length and
Definitely worked in the second quarter.
oh yeah, and another team isn't shooting very well, you can zone them. Why not?
You want to know? This is on a complete side note for all of our Spurs fans out there. I think we're a team that, depending on what we do in the draft, could be a team that experiments with zone a little bit more. I wouldn't hate getting a guy like Donovan Clingan. Now, this is a complete side note. Get him and then kind of play some type of zone with those 2 guys by the basket. But sorry, side note.
No. Anyone but him. Anyone but
Donovan Clingan. I'd take him.
I mean, I would take him, but I think he would still be a project. Like he would be like we need to work on this guy to get his foot speed up and get him ready for the league.
I think he's got one of the bigger floors in the NBA draft, but there's going to be more time. Feel free to tune back into a future episode of the Baseline Bob's podcast where we will be talking about the NBA draft. I know I said that wrong. I'm seeing you over there, AJ. Hey, well, if that's all we've kind of got on this series, why don't we hop in a little bit to the Pacers-Celtics series?
Yeah, I was about to say we're talking about one struggling superstar. Let's talk about another struggling superstar, but at least his team is winning. Jason Tatum. I'm not going to let Jason Tatum off the hook. I'm going to start this off by saying I'm not going to let him off the hook. He's been shooting 44% from the field this playoffs. I know his team's been winning, but he's had a very cushy ride to where he is right now because of injuries. And I still feel as if Brown is outplaying Jason Tatum, then the Mavs could be looking prime to win this. And that goes double if they're not getting Porzingis back. And I know Lively getting hurt tonight may affect that a little bit, but man, the Celtics they kind of worry me. Halliburton goes down and they're still playing a close game with Indiana in game 3. I mean, what's up with that?
I think it's hard to win on the road is one. Even without Halliburton, I think you're going home, you get the fans involved. That whole team outside of Pascal Siakam are pretty much role players, and role players always play better at home. They still ended up getting the job done. And I want to push back a little bit on the Tatum hate because his shot hasn't been as good as it should be. He should be a guy that shoots, 47, 48% from the field. Like I mentioned, his three-point shot struggled, but I feel like he's played so well in other aspects of the game. I think his pass making, his decision making, his effort on defense, his rebounding, I think his whole game has been pretty good in this playoff series especially. He's going to have to take that game to another level, and he's going to have to start shooting better from 3. I think if they want to beat Dallas, I don't know who I'd pick, honestly, in that series if I were to go today.
Tough one.
I mean, Dallas, they match up kind of well. They're going to need Porzingis back. With how big Dallas has been on the offensive glass and rebounding, they're going to need Porzingis back because Horford is not going to be able to play against those young, athletic guys the whole time. It's not going to be good for him, I don't think.
No, it's going to be bad for the entire Celtics team.
But if Mavericks don't have Lively, that changes some of the length that the Celtics have to deal with. So like,
You don't believe in Dwight Powell?
No, I don't. Not even a little bit.
Not coming back. No.
And honestly, I'm kind of iffy on PJ Washington. He goes in and out of the game so much that, he shows up in big time moments. It seems like he hits a lot of corner 3-point shots in the fourth quarter when it matters a lot. So that's a plus. But at the same time, I feel like there's complete halves where he just disappears. And if you're playing a team like the Celtics, you can't be doing that if you're a key role player.
Yeah. One thing that if everyone listening here listened to our last podcast, Rob mentioned a guy who he felt needed to step up if the Celtics were gonna have a better chance of winning it all, and that's Drew Holiday. And he's one guy that I feel like has stepped up quite a bit in this series so far, shooting over 60% from the field, I think 44 or so percent from 3, averaging 19 points a game. They're gonna need him and Derek White to really play at a high level if they're gonna go in and beat the Mavericks. Right, I mean the other 2 series are over. It's going to be Celtics Mavericks in the finals, but I think that he's going to need to continue to play well. But I will say this: I think that the Celtics might be the best team in the NBA to match up against the Mavericks. Right? I don't know that Kyrie will have played a guy better suited to guard him and Drew Holiday. Yeah. I think Derek White, he's a little too short for Luka, but I think he'll play him well. And it's going to be very difficult to put the Celtics in the same type of defensive situations that the Mavericks have been able to do to the T-Wolves, right? Like, you're going to have maybe Derek White guarding it, and then if they're going to continue to do that high ball screen, they're going to have, Tatum or Jaylen Brown switching, right? Like, I could see them doing that quite a bit, and those guys are similarly heighted. I think Tatum's an inch taller than Luka. Jaylen Brown's 6'7", Luka's 6'8". Like they're going to be able to match up very well. It's really going to be if the bigs of Boston can kind of keep in check with Gafford and Lively. And I think if Porzingis is back, they can. So I'm really excited for that series. I think that they kind of have the blueprint to at least guard Dallas really well.
Absolutely. I think on paper it looks like a pretty attractive matchup. It looks like it's going to be at least a 6 or 7 game series. If Lively comes back and Porzingis comes back, I think that that front court battle is still going to be leaning towards Boston, but I still feel like Dallas has the closers. Dallas has the guys that you can close out in multiple game situations, whether or not you need to get a bucket on an island or you need to get a drive floater into the lane. They have the dual killers, the dual assassins, and until I see Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown get it done, I'm still going to question their ability on the big stage, even though Jaylen Brown has stepped it up big time. He's shooting 54% from the field, and obviously that game tying three in game one, and so many other big moments when you're talking about a lot of his attacking the rim. It's he's been playing really well and has been that second fiddle that you need.
I mean, one beautiful things about the Celtics is it's always kind of a next man up thing with them, right? If Tatum's not playing well, Jaylen Brown can kind of go get that shot. If somehow both of them aren't playing well, I trust Derek White to get good shots and make them in tough situations. Let's say he's not doing well. Drew Holiday can go get his shot too. And then if Porzingis comes back, he can go get a shot. They have 4 or 5 guys that can lead that team in scoring on any given night. Really 4. Drew Holiday's not going to most nights. But they legitimately have 4 guys that can put up 30 on any given night. And Dallas doesn't. They have 2. I would say you could make an argument that Dallas will have the 2 best players in that series. Now, I think most people have Tatum being second best to Luka, but there are certainly nights where Kyrie can be the best player on the floor. But I think past those 2 guys, right, you've got 5 of the best 7 players in the next series will be Celtics. And I don't think there's any way you could argue that.
It's going to be a great series because both teams have the championship, at least foundation background. They're not a young team. They have some wounds on them. They got battle scars. So I think the fact that it's going to be a championship series, you guys, Boston's been there, Kyrie's been there. I think it's going to be fun to see which team has the most poise outside
Jason
of the
Kidd's
superstar.
been there.
Jason Kidd's been there. Drew Holiday's been there. Horford's been there. I mean, there's so many people that are to this point where we're no longer going to be questioning, oh, is it the young team and they're just making silly mistakes like the Timberwolves, or is it just actually going to be, some veteran players? This is going to be veteran players. I'm excited about it. I'm surprised with the Pacers because whenever Halliburton went out, it looked like the entire team just got deflated, and then they came back and the next game they played really well. They could have just rolled over and died, and they didn't. They put up an effort. T.J. McConnell had a great game, but you missed your superstar in Halliburton. So both are going to be swept. You might get a gentleman sweep in one of the series, but for the most part, it is signed, sealed, and almost delivered. Currently waiting for
pretty underwhelming Eastern and Western Conference Finals. I agree, and it's kind of sad that the Pacers are going out this way because you saw so much grit from them, and you saw how fluid their offense was moving, and you kind of wanted to see how far they could go with that momentum, because most of the year they were the number one offense, and to see them fall apart like they did, Halliburton, and they didn't have Matherin, which is which is a role player, but at the same time, they just started to slowly get more and more banged up, and you can only ride Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner, and you can only ride them so much. Epa.
Yeah, I want to take a second to give some respects to the Pacers, right? I don't think anybody predicted coming into the season for them to make it to Eastern Conference Finals. They doubled down at the deadline, went and got Pascal Siakam, and put themselves at least in a position to be in the Final Four in the NBA. And it's crazy because we haven't spoken since the beginning of that series either, and they should have been up 1-0 in this series. They blew that first game. I know it's not all about one play, but the inbounds pass
Yep.
where they turned the ball over was the biggest single play of the game, right? And Carlisle could have called a timeout there. The player inbounding the ball could have called a timeout. It's been so long, I don't even remember who was passing the ball in. I think it might have been Pascal. But they could have been up 1-0 in this series, right? And then let's say Halliburton hypothetically doesn't get hurt. There was a really big scenario where they were 2-2 after 4, and now it's going to be a sweep. But even that, I think you look at the Pacers, and this was a successful season for them.
Runner-ups.
It's saying, hey, we're going for it now, right? Like they're in their little winning window. I think they go out and try and get another player somehow. They could trade Ben Matherin, who I think is almost like a redundant player a little bit to what Aaron Nesmith can do for them. What that would be, I don't know exactly. Probably just an upgrade on the wing. I don't know what they need as much. They've got a good starting center, Pascal Siakam. Probably another 2 or 3 that would be an upgrade from Matherin if they had to go out and do something.
Yeah, I could see something like that, but ultimately I agree. It's a success for the Pacers no matter how you slice it. Even if they get swept in the Eastern Conference Finals, you still got to give a thumbs up to that team because they played really well all season. But yeah, like some of the things from that Game 3, Pacers Celtics, Pacers only had 5 steals and blocks combined all game as a team.
Who are they, the T-Wolves?
You are not going to survive if you are not putting out a better defensive effort than that. When you look at the Celtics, who had 19, that's just
really wow.
Yeah, that's just completely night and day. And so I think whenever the Pacers offense isn't fully clicking, they just have little to no defense they can rely on pretty much outside of Miles Turner.
Yeah.
There was one play that Carlisle complained a lot about last night. It was the drive by what's wrong with me right now? Guard from, why can't I say his name? Shooting guard that kind of got the ball stolen from him at the very end of the game. Shooting guard for the Pacers.
Was it Ben Shepherd?
No. What's wrong with
Nembhard?
Nembhard. Thank you, God. I feel like an idiot. Yeah, Nembhard drove late. It was in the final possession. AJ and Drew Holiday kind of jumped in front of him and stole the ball, and Carlisle was pissed. And I didn't see anything there. I thought it was a clean steal, to be honest. And Carlisle's probably just salty because he hasn't really looked the best this whole series. Honestly, I think that the Pacers kind of dropped the ball. He's kind of dropped the ball in a couple different spots.
Yeah, he should have had Pascal Siakam foul on the catch. I literally made a post about this before Jaylen Brown got that 3 off. He should have had Pascal foul on the catch. That way he would have had to take 2 free throws instead of had the opportunity for 3. And to me, that is just basic math. Basic math equaling basic basketball IQ. I don't know why you don't foul on the catch. I know Jaylen Brown kind of did like a pump fake. Sure, maybe it was a little confusing whether or not you could foul, but in my opinion, I don't care. I'm sending somebody like Jaylen Brown to the line, even if it's like a questionable situation. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, the one thing there's very little time left on the clock, and in that situation, it's like you inbound the ball in a position to shoot, and you fear that they're going to shoot immediately and you're going to put them on the free throw line. That's real tricky. If it's like they were inbounding the ball from under the basket, if it was from half court and he was catching it in a different spot, I see your point a little bit more. But I don't know. It's like that was a really hard shot to make, and maybe just don't bite on the fake. But it's too late now, and Pacers are fucking done.
But all I'm saying is if that's a 64% free throw shooter, I'm fouling that person. I'm
Jaylen Brown shoots from the line?
Yeah, that's been what he's done in the playoffs.
Oh, tits.
So I'm saying I'm fouling that person just based on what I know, but I totally understand that that's a split second late game situation. It's hard to make that judgment.
But I wonder if Carlisle even mentioned the possibility of it.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. That needs to be discussed in the huddle on the out of bounds beforehand. So if foul quickly right away wasn't the plan, then I can't put that on Pascal.
Yeah.
Well, Who knew the Mavs and Celtics would be on the brink of being in the NBA Finals?
Yeah,
I had the
seriously.
Mavs. I had the Mavs there all season long.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I had them facing the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals.
yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
that checks out.
That was the
Yeah.
obvious. That
When,
was the
when we're
obvious call,
when
right?
we're 8-30, you're like, oh, we're gonna win the rest of the series.
On the
Games for
cusp,
sure.
yeah. Wemby's about to be unleashed.
He is.
He technically was.
And you know what sucks?
What
I
sucks,
thought
Adam?
Luca was a guy that would get increasingly frustrated with the Mavericks organization and inability to advance the playoffs. And I thought in like 2 to 3 years, Luca was going to be available. I really did. And I was like,
Yeah,
Luca's going to be a Spur in 2 to 3 years whenever he requests for a trade because he can't win there. And now they have like this culture. Him and Kyrie are like happily ever after. They've got all these role players balling the fuck out. And the Mavericks are, even if they don't win it all this year, they're going to be, I don't know, probably the third favorite in the West going into next year. I would, no, maybe second. It'd be Denver,
Yeah.
Denver, Minnesota, and Dallas, and Oklahoma City would be the
Yeah.
top four, right?
I was about to say how close the West was this year. I would say you could have a myriad of teams at the top. If you had OKC at the top, it wouldn't surprise me. Same thing with Minnesota, Denver, or Dallas. There's four teams. I mean, even if you slid the Spurs in there, it
Yeah,
wouldn't.
and you would, because
But
we're gonna be back.
but yeah, the last two
Reed
years,
Shepard's taking us all the way.
the last 2 years, the West has been an absolute gauntlet, and just a few games has basically decided several spots in the rankings.
Yeah. And this series has been a lot closer than 3-0, right? Like it very well could be 2-1 Timberwolves right now or 1-2. Yeah, series isn't over, right? Boston forced their way to a game 7. Was that last year?
Yep,
After
that was
going
last
down
year.
3-0?
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I
Well-
mean, 2 of the remaining 4 games are at least in Minnesota. Am I being crazy even by floating out the possibility a little bit? Yeah.
I think it is kind of crazy given how they just have no momentum at all. It wasn't even like this was like a game where they lost like right at the end. Nah, they just literally got crushed in the late fourth. Like this wasn't like a Luca hitting a gate or late game dagger. This was just them getting outplayed for several minutes, them not scoring for the last few minutes of the whole game.
Yeah, T-Wolves are just getting punked right now, man. There's no toughness around them. They're on the brink of being like called soft at this point because I just don't see any toughness. I don't see any like heart and hustle. It's just kind of like we're good and we make shots, but it's just there's no attitude behind it like they were when they were playing the Nuggets. It just seems that they kind of blew their load the last series, and this is kind of what we have right now.
Yeah, they're mentally defeated, and I would be too. You're down 3-0 going into Dallas whenever they've been hot. I imagine Lively probably misses next game, which helps them a little bit. He's been pretty important to what they've been doing. That's a guy that we didn't talk about that much, who had like a crazy start to the game. Played amazing in the first quarter. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he did not miss a shot until he got hurt. He was 13 for 13 the first 2 games and like quarter and a half until he got hurt, which is absolutely insane.
Well, let's hope that his concussion doesn't linger, because those like concussions can linger for a long time. And if we're talking about the finals, which starts in a week or so, like June 6th, I think is when it starts. So if he's able to recover here in the next few days, that would be awesome. But if it takes him a week, 2 weeks, then we may not see him until game 2 or 3 of the finals. So we'll see, monitor that as everything kind of moves on.
Yeah.
So in case we don't get back on and have another podcast before the start of the NBA Finals, we might, right?
We should.
Yeah, we should. But let's just let's give the listeners a little taste. Let's assume a Dallas versus Celtics finals. Is anybody care to give an official prediction?
I would say I'm leaning towards Dallas in 7.
Wow.
I'm leaning towards Dallas in 7 because if they're playing a team like Boston, I think offensively it's going to be a slug back and forth. I just think I look at the closers, and in big games, it's decided by the closers. Those are just moments that, I mean, I hate to say it, but your butthole puckers a little bit if you aren't ready for it. You just are, the lights are just a little bit brighter. And if you're a guy like Kyrie who's been there, hit big shots in championship moments,
Very
he's
loose
ready for
butthole.
it. Yeah, oh yeah, he's ready for it. He's ready for it. And same thing with Luca to a certain degree. Not like he's a champion or anything like that, but at the same time,
No,
he
he
is a
isn't.
late game dagger specialist, and I view their late game situation as a step above what Boston brings to the table. And you know, sometimes in the championship, that's the difference, and that's why I think it could go to a game 7. If it is in a game 7, I'm trusting the better closers.
AJ,
Well, I
Pacers in
have the
6.
I have the right to change. I'm gonna preface all my predictions with I have the right to change my mind before we get there.
One,
But
two, three bucks.
so I personally I'll take the Mavs in 6. Honestly, I just think
Man.
I think when it comes down to just overall hustle plays and rebounding, I think the Mavs just will dominate the glass. Like if they're doing it against the Timberwolves, what's going to make you think they're not going to do it against the Celtics? Like especially if Lively's there, if everyone's hitting shots, I think PJ Washington actually has a decent series or decent enough because Mavs can play a little smaller than they have been if they really want to. So I do think possibly Mavs in 6, and hopefully at the end of the series, if the Mavs do win, we get a fun Shark Tank episode before the Mark Cuban walks away.
Yeah, I'm debating. It's interesting. There's a period of time tonight where I was sitting down and watching this game, and I was envisioning the finals, and I was like, is Dallas going to win this series in 7? Are they going to go into Boston in game 7 and pull off a game 7 victory against the Celtics? And as I'm sitting here listening to y'all throwing up into my mouth at two Spurs fans predicting predicting the Mavericks to win it all, I was thinking to myself, you know what? It's going to be Celtics in 5. I don't give two fucks what I've seen the Mavs do in this series. I'm a Spurs fan, ride or die. And Porzingis is going to come back. He's going to be healthy. And I think that the Mavs haven't played a team like the Celtics. They haven't played a team that matches up against them that well with 2 6'7", 6'9" guys that can guard Luka with the best perimeter point guard defender in the NBA in Drew Holiday. And I think Porzingis is going to come back, and he's going to stand out there, and he's going to make Lively look little. And he's going to pull him out to the three-point line, and he's going to be getting shots. You're not going to see P.J. Washington shooting uncontested threes in the corner, and you're going to see the Celtics in 5, and you're going to see Jason Tatum reign the banner, and they're going to pull in another ring, and I'm going to be thrilled because the next team winning an NBA championship in Texas is going to be the San Antonio Spurs, and that is that. Yeah.
So did you
Like
just
that
turn
banner,
into like
AJ?
did you just turn into like a Celtics fan real quick, or are you mistaking a prediction for fandom?
What I turned into is a Mavs hater because I've always been one. And I'm not about to sit up here and agree with two other baseline bums, which are big time Spurs fans, as you can see the Duncan and Spurs banner in the background. And I'm not going to let our panel go 3 for 3 on predicting the Mavericks to win it all. That
Okay.
would be blasphemous.
I'll
And
give you that.
I think
I'll
the
give you that.
Celtics are the better team. They've been the better team all year. They've got 5 of the best 7 players in the series. And I don't think that their role players are going to get as good a shots as they have now because I think Drew Holiday is going to be able to guard Kyrie. I think Luka is going to face possibly the toughest challenge he's going to. I thought coming into this series, Minnesota was going to present a big challenge to him, but clearly their bigs and inability to switch and do what
Who is going to be Luca's toughest challenge
the
defensively?
the whole team of Boston. and their ability to switch more than Minnesota's ability to switch.
If he's cooking Jaden McDaniels right now, a 6'9" second team All NBA defender, then what is he going to do to every single guy on Boston right now? I'm not trying to be pro Mavs right now, but I'm just saying he's put everyone that's been in front of him in a blender.
Okay, well, AJ, it's your turn. Go ahead.
The Celtics won both games during the regular seasons against the Mavs. Caveat, it was before the trade deadline. Therefore, they don't know this Mavs team really. And I think that's going to make a big difference because you can't look at the tape from what you did and be like, oh, look at this, because the team's completely different now.
Yeah, well, they weren't afraid of Gafford and PJ Washington and those bum-ass teams before the deadline anyways. I'm just kidding. I'm hating a little bit now. But I'll say this. You mentioned Jaden McDaniels being second-team All-NBA defense. There happen to be two guys in the Boston Celtics that made second All-NBA team defense. And those guys are going to be able to. And it's not necessarily as much about one individual player. It's, to me, so much of the Mavs game plan in this series is high pick and roll, high ball screen, get switches to favorable matchups. And who's that going to be on Boston? What's the favorable switch they're going to be trying to do? I think they're going to start with White on Luka. They're going to have him play him far away from the court. And if there's high ball screens, they're going to have Tatum or Brown switch onto him. Which I'm okay with them contesting.
It's Horford. It's like literally
It is Horford.
Indiana attacked Horford like a homing missile. They were just like, it doesn't care if we have Nembhard or Siakam, Halliburton. It doesn't. Fucking Ben Shepherd. Let's just have him attack Horford. I'm being serious to a certain degree. Like if they don't have Porzingis, that is a huge problem. Well, no, I mean have Porzingis from like 100%. If they have 80% of Porzingis, you can attack him. You can attack a kind of a semi ready to go Porzingis.
I think they're going to have their guards fighting through more. They've got to be watching this series right now between Minnesota and Dallas. I mean, like, we can't be putting Horford on an island. Like, him and Gobert are going to go vacationing together in the summer. Talk about how they're trash on the defensive end and they're
just don't see how the Celtics can stop the Mavericks' athleticism. I don't see it. And also for me personally, it's best for business if the Mavs do win because then everyone's going to be happier and everyone's going to be like, let me buy stuff from you. So.
Ultimately, I want to see an exciting 7-game series. That's what I want to see. I want to see it go to 7. I don't want to see any of this sweet bullshit. I want to get 7 games of basketball in the finals, have them be close, have it be exciting, have the stars play well. I want all of the above.
Yeah, I just want the Mavs to lose. I can't have them winning another ring. 2011 was hard enough.
We'll see, Adam. The difference between you and me is I want the Mavs to lose as well, but I can give an objective take.
Me predicting the Celtics to win is unobjective? I didn't back it up with any evidence.
In 5?
But you backed it up with a lot of emotion as well. That's what I'm saying.
I think I said 5 or 6. Did I say 5?
You said 5.
Very sternly. It wasn't like you think it's gonna be.
Maybe I would have said 6 or 7 if y'all didn't both pick the Mavericks. Maybe I was trying to get some clicks. Like and subscribe.
Well, Well, I will say that if the Mavs end up winning the championship, it's fine because I think Wemby is about to win probably like 6 straight. So going to throw that out there.
You know what, guys? I am kind of tired of talking about the Mavs. You know, let's shift the conversation a little bit
to Kelsey Plum stats.
we could, but since it's Memorial Day weekend, I wanted to shift it to the Memorial Day miracle. How about that?
Yeah,
and I want to take fires an off-balance 3, and he hits it.
Let's take a second to thank all of our veterans in this great country that we live in that allow us to have the NBA in the first place and say thank you. And yeah, Rob, it was a big day for us many, many moons ago. And AJ, I want to hear you talk about what this big day a few years back now means to you.
Awesome. Rob, hit some music, so we like some piano music in the background. Or screw it, dude. Put on the national anthem. I'll riff to that. So here's my take on it. I was at the game, and the game was phenomenal. It was a high energy game, but the problem was the Trailblazers were constantly they were leading the game the entire time. Sean Elliott was starting to get warmed up. We started making some comebacks. We started being a little more poised with some of our possessions, and then the shot of all shots happened, and Mario Elliott throws. Oh, actually, let's just back it up. Greg Popovich drew up a gorgeous play, an out of bounds play, and this was the time when they still had delay game. So the Trailblazers got a delay game warning because they, you step on the line or something like that. They got rid of it. So they kind of saw a little bit of the play, and I want to say that they switched it and had them go, I think maybe go baseline, and that's how Sean Elliott came open and caught the ball, one dribble on his toes over Rasheed Wallace's face and just nailed it. And what was the best part about that entire game was in game one, we won that game, and they showed like behind the scenes, and Damian Stoudemire was talking all kinds of mad shit to the Spurs.
Damon.
And like I would never forget it. He was talking like hardcore, and it's like, all right, cool. And then Sean Elliott makes that shot, place erupts. You see, you like everyone's going nuts. Like I don't remember being in a building that loud ever, and I was 9 years old at the time, and I haven't been in something that. No, take it back. I have when Texas Tech beat UT. Anyway, but it was a great moment. The next day, you find out that someone had a collapsed lung because he screamed so loud. Everyone dude, that shot was everywhere. It was coined the Memorial Day Miracle. Man, what a great moment, and that set the trajectory for, I believe, the next 20 years of our franchise. And you look back on it, and you're like, that's awesome. I think we're going to see some really similar moments with Wemby.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that was the first year of our dynasty, right? That was our first championship in 1999.
Shortened
One
season.
One of easily, if not the biggest shot, probably the most memorable shot, top two in the history of the Spurs franchise, right?
What's number one?
I said top two. I'd say ultimately that one. Tim Duncan's one-handed floating three, with one hand fading to the left. I think it was against the Lakers. Was that
Lakers?
That the .4 game? That was a big
Yep,
shot. Obviously,
was.
this one led to a win, right?
Yeah.
So one of the biggest shots in the history of our franchise, and it's 25 years ago now, right? That makes us feel old. 25 years ago when this happened, and it kind of shaped the history for us as fans, and kind of brought on our dynasty. And it was 2 months after that Sean Elliott got his kidney transplant, right?
Yeah, he was going through all of his health stuff during the playoff run, which is wild.
Oh yeah, and yeah, that's crazy to just kind of put all of that health stuff aside to just be like, hey, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to win. And man, he was such a competitor. Like if you look at I think the photos from that, and it's as crazy as they are, when you look at his feet and you look at his heels over the out of bounds line, where it's like an inch or two backwards, he's out of bounds. If you look at Rasheed Wallace's hand and how close it is to the ball, it's just a couple inches. Rasheed almost got that, and
fully extended, dude. Fully extended.
Oh yeah, fully extended. There was a couple of moments that almost denied that moment from happening. So the fact that happened the way it did, it leading to our first championship win against the Knicks in '99, that's just special. That's just special.
And in that playoff run, that kind of gets overlooked is we lost the first game against the Timberwolves with Kevin Garnett, won the next three, swept the Lakers, swept the Trailblazers, got the first two in for New York, maybe the first three, and then they won one, and then we won the next game in New York to win the championship. So hell of a run from that squad, and that squad was great. I love that team. That's one of my favorite teams. But just from the heart perspective, professionalism, veteran leadership. Avery Johnson was the floor general. Mario Elliott brought you that grit, and it was
Kerr.
Fun. Steve Kerr was setting hard picks for Sean Elliott. Man, it was what a team. What a team. A young Tim Duncan before he got all dreadlocky.
And I hate to say it this way, but this is like the true last year that David Robinson is truly David Robinson.
Yeah.
He had 15 and 10 in the playoffs and was really, really instrumental in how we got there and how we won. Was a really amazing rim protector. But this was the last year we actually saw like the athleticism and kind of the top tier play of the Admiral.
Yep.
Absolutely.
What a
Yeah.
shot. And how many people, or because I know I sure as hell did, went to the gym the next day and took that shot over and over and over again, going, "How did he do this?"
Oh yeah.
For years, I would try that shot. It wasn't even just the next day. That was like a shot that we would just do sometimes. Yeah.
Coach
I
Lee
mean,
should
I-
be like,
I
"Guys,
mean, I
we're
would
doing
hit-
the Memorial Day Miracle."
I mean, I had the green light to take that shot at all times. So I mean, I'd pull that bitch.
You never had the green light.
I always had the green light.
Oh man. Well, boys, this is some good talking ball, eh?
Absolutely. I got one little quick thing before we get off here. Guys, or AJ, give me a number 1 through 5. We're gonna do a little card giveaway for a lucky audience member.
Wait,
Is he free?
we'll get that in post. What's the number? Say it again.
You
No, I
froze
said-
on our end.
I said, give me a number 1 through 5. We're gonna do a lucky card giveaway.
Let's give me number 2.
Give me number 2. All right, we have, boom. We got a Kyrie Prism. All right, we're giving away this
Nice.
Kyrie Silver Prism fireworks, and we're giving away a couple other things on top of that. So comment Kyrie Irving on this post to win.
Nice. Hell yeah. And guys, I
Like
want to thank
and subscribe.
I want to go ahead and take a second to thank all of our listeners. You know, we're just a group of friends that like to get together and talk basketball, and it's fun to be able to kind of talk and we appreciate every listener that kind of gives us their time. We know there's a lot of basketball content out right there, so we enjoy and appreciate y'all coming along and listening to what we have to say. Please, go ahead and like us on all platforms. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, the Baseline Bums Podcast. Rob's got a big page on TikTok as well called B-Ball Archives that he delivers some fire content to. So if you could, it'd mean a lot to us. We're trying to grow this so that we can, do stuff like more giveaways, and just deliver y'all more content. So we appreciate it all.
We're trying to get media passes over here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to get into the Frost Center without being stopped by security. That's what we want. So
We want Wemby on this pod.
yes.
We need Rob to redeem himself on his free throw now.
Oh, bro. Bro, there's
Low blow,
there,
bro.
no, well, honestly, there's no redeeming myself after that. Like I would need to drop like a 30-point triple double to redeem myself after that.
Be honest.
Which I
whenever
can.
whenever you went to bed that night, were you thinking about that?
Oh, dude, no, I'm not a competitor with basketball anymore. Like I'm not like, oh man, dude, I'm not beating myself up over a missed free throw, especially after I had like 6 beers that day. Like what? Like I was supposed to hit a free throw after I had a few beers.
I'm not saying
Dude,
you had
that's
to
like
hit it.
$80.
I'm not saying you had to make the free throw. You just had to hit rim.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. If you miss it, you miss it. There's not.
It all talks. Rob was an amazing basketball player. For y'all that don't know, he was all state in high school. How many years ago is that now?
It was a different
17
lifetime ago.
17 years ago, Rob was all state beast.
I gotta
so.
take off my shoes to count at this point.
Oh yeah, different lifetime ago.
Yep.
But dude, gentlemen, this was a great episode.
yeah, it
Kelsey
was.
Plum,
It was fun.
20.7 rebounds yesterday.
Ooh, Kelsey Plum, shout out, you did great.
Caitlin Clark washed. I'm just kidding.
Of course, Adam coming in with the hate right at the end.
Yeah, I know. All right, guys. Good talking to y'all. We'll do it soon.
Absolutely. This has been another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. Thank y'all, everyone, for tuning in. It's your host, Rob, a.k.a. B-Ball Archives. Once again, I'm joined with the Bums, Adam, AJ. Once again, amazing conversation. And as always, it is Go Spurs!
Go.
Go! Yeah!
Nice. We're here.
Theme music. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.